Hey Cameron Aggies, I'm Ashley Matthews and you're watching Film Geek. This week we're talking all things Thor. Let's get to that intro.
Bond. James.
That's what it is.
Let's talk about the new release I caught this weekend at the Carmike Theater. Thor: The Dark World. This movie stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Natalie Portman as Dr. Jane Foster, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and Anthony Hopkins as Odin. Thor: The Dark World is a superhero film featuring the Marvel comic characters. Thor is the second Thor film featuring following 2011's Thor and its 8th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As Thor battles to save Earth and allow the 9 realms from a shadowy enemy that portrays as the universe itself in the aftermath of Marvel's Thor and Marvel's The Avenger, Thor fights to restore order across the cosmos, but an ancient race led by the vengeful Malekith returns to plunge the universe back into darkness. Faced with an enemy that even Odin and Asgard cannot withstand, Thor must embark on his most personal journey, yet one that will reunite him with Jane Foster and force him to sacrifice everything to save us. Let's take a look at the trailer.
Some believe that before the universe, there was nothing. They're wrong. There was darkness. And it has survived.
I gave you my word. I would return.
What's gonna happen?
Hold on.
Wait, what? Jane! We're from different worlds. Maybe they're separate for a reason.
If we do nothing, they'll destroy us.
Ask yourself, what will you sacrifice for what you believe?
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
You should know that when you betray me, I will kill you.
When do we start?
This week I am joined with Carson Stringham and Brad Johnson to get their take on Thor: The Dark World. So Brad, I'll start off with you. After seeing Thor: The Dark World, how do you think that it lined up with the comics?
How it lined up with the comics? As you know, this is a new universe within the Marvel universe. Marvel has plenty of universes, so and so. But funny thing is, there are many references to the old comics. For example, the first enemy Thor really faces is the rock giant.
Okay.
And that was actually one of the first villains Thor ever faces. And actually in Professor Screegs, or whatever his name is, well, I'm a Marvel fan, I don't know the name, there's actually a Easter egg that says Universe 616, which is actually one of the universes in the comics. It's not the first one, but it's one of the major universes in the comics. But the characters seem to be pretty back, you know, they're like their characters in the comics, I believe.
Carson, do you agree with what he says, or do you think that they could have elaborated more on this movie compared to the comics?
I actually don't read too much of the comics myself. I only know what I've read in terms of cross-referencing against some of the other Marvel movies that have come out. When I wanted to know about the Avengers,
right.
When that movie came out, I did a little bit of research on Wikipedia, kind of looked up to see the stories behind each of the characters and how the Avengers came to be. So outside of that, I'm not really sure. All I have to compare this one to is to the first Thor movie, and the details that I know from that. And it seemed to transition from the first Thor movie to the second one pretty seamlessly, integrating parts of the Avengers movie. Obviously, within the movie timeline, they go in order, and so there's mentions in this movie of what happened in New York with the Avengers. So,
do you think the hammer played a much bigger part in this movie than it did versus the first Thor? Like, do you think it was used more, or that they did a lot more extravagant scenes than the first one?
I would have to say I think it was more key to the storyline in the first one, because Thor, having been kicked out of Asgard and losing his godlike powers until he learned to be a true leader,
Right.
and Odin putting that spell on the hammer so that he couldn't wield it until he was worthy enough to. I think that definitely played a bigger part in the first movie. Obviously, I don't think there's anything that really, there's nothing like that in this movie.
The hammer itself cannot be deflected because it's controlled by Thor. But if you look in the movie, the dark elf who gets basically the steroid,
Right.
he actually can block it with his shoulder.
Okay.
And it's if you, like I said, if he throws it, it'll continue going on until he calls it back. But
Right.
the other guy, the big guy, was able to knock it off course. So that was actually it's not a major point, but looking from it tests Thor's power with the hammer.
Right.
Because he's Thor, he can control the hammer, but get that big guy in there, he's like the linebacker, he can just knock that out. So.
I know we talked earlier about the humor in the movie. I know we've talked about the cameo that was mentioned. Do you think that there was a lot of humor? Do you think that this, considering being a dark world type movie, that it wasn't very dark world-ish? Like, they could have had less humor? Or do you think it was too much?
I think personally that Marvel has kind of set a standard for themselves. Again, going in the timeline of the Marvel movie universe, from the first Thor movie to Avengers to Thor 2,
Right.
the comedy in each has gotten progressively more abundant. And I think, piggybacking off of the success of the Avengers movie, the audience wanted there to be a large comedic element to this movie. And I think they delivered. I think there was a lot of catchy one-liners, a lot of physical comedy,
Okay.
So I think it worked. I don't think it was too much, because that's just the way the movies have progressed.
Starting with the Iron Man movie, watching all the Marvel movies, and I actually watched all of them straight through for Thor: Dark World, and the comedy does play a big part in them, because in the comics there's one-liners and all, but Thor: Dark World, I just think there shouldn't be as much comedy. Like, there's scenes that they could have done away with comedy-wise, because when they're kissing and they teleport and they're still kissing, people laugh. I'm like, that could have been avoided.
Right, like, I'd have to agree with you. I think there's sometimes that there was comedy that, there shouldn't have been as much comedy, because it's Thor. You would think of Thor being this great hero doing things that...
And having such a dark tone for the movie, it wasn't dark, like,
Right, but it has the feel that it's supposed to be a dark type movie. It's not a comedy. Like, we went to not go see a comedy, you know what I mean?
But I'm glad they put the Captain America cameo.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was actually comedic.
That was.
Because Loki was, the villain Avengers, and he teased all the Avengers except for Captain America.
Right.
I believe. So that was a good, teaser for Captain America.
Right. Definitely was. Which one would you say would have been the better movie, and why? Like, if you had to choose, which one is your favorite?
It's like picking your favorite child or your favorite kind of pizza. It's hard.
Well, I know you have to have something that stands out, either in, they might tie. Do you think that Thor, like the first Thor versus the second Thor, or do you think it all just blends well just because that's the way the story goes?
Carson, I'm going to let you take this. I got to think about this.
Oh, wow. Let's see. For me, I would probably say I enjoyed the first Thor movie better, just because it gives the backstory. It's where the love interest begins. It deals with Thor kind of growing up, losing that godlike superiority and learning what it means to suffer as a mortal does, and to, put others before himself. This story was a lot more sci-fi. It wasn't so personal. It was definitely more of save the world as opposed to overcome your personal demons.
Right.
So I don't know, that's how I'm seeing it. But.
Well, that looks like that's all the time we have this week for Thor. So thank you guys for coming, Brad and Carson. As you can always find me at the Carmike. I'll be there this weekend to catching up what's next in the box office. Until next time, Maggies. See you later.